Hey, this is NILI BROSH, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives. Thanks, NILI, so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a cool dive into your world. So looking
Awesome.
forward to it, and hopefully there's lots of folks out there who want to hear a little more too. Because you just released 2 songs. You know, some people come out, oh, I got a new album, got a new EP, got a new concert. Album, and you came out with 2 songs a day apart. I think that you released them, right? Yeah, so maybe we'll start there and like kind of go back or go forward, but since that's like, you know, most what's up right now, you're probably most interested in that, right?
Sure. So 2 new singles, Song for Hope and Lavender Mountains, and the whole idea between the double single idea thing is that while they're both going to be a part of a bigger picture, bigger story album later on, I don't want everybody to have to wait that long anyway, because even singles take longer to release, at least for me, than I would like to. And so this was part of the, I want to get the music out there to the listeners, but I also feel like these 2 kind of come in sequence, and so why not release them that way and have everybody listen to them that way? So the idea is Song for Hope precedes Lavender Mountains, and it's not so much a transition, but it just, Lavender Mountains has a long intro, and it kind of makes sense for the solo guitar piece to eventually transition through this long intro and onto this triumphant tune.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess we kind of jumped the gun here. Anyone who's new to your music, I mean, we're talking instrumental guitar music for the most part, mostly in a rock format, but it's cool because we could call either of these songs a solo guitar track, but the first one, Song of Hope, really is a solo guitar.
Literally,
the next one solo, is the next one's Lavender Mountains, more what we would think of like, you know, a Joe Satriani solo guitar piece with the whole band and everything. So they're so stylistically different. And you've got, you know, a cool video for the Lavender Mountains one, but let's start with the Song for Hope. Like what's behind that? What was the maybe was there a particular guitarist that inspired you for that approach that you took on it?
Not so much the approach. I've often felt that kind of vibe is a lot more conducive to something melodic and less conducive to bastardizing it with playing too many notes because you can, you know. And so I really wanted to dig into that, and I've always loved writing slow melodies and ballady type things. I felt like I could dig into that without feeling like I need to tread, right? So that was really trying to go in that direction. And the interesting thing is that they're both pandemic songs, and kind of early pandemic, I actually found out. And Song for Hope, again, the title like reflects the need for that, because I don't understand the irony of how 2 very sweet sounding kind of tunes came out of the absolute darkest part of it. So I think with the time of the release and everything hopefully kind of coming full circle, it makes more sense saying that now, but looking back, it's just kind of it's weird to me.
Yeah, so were you kind of implying that you wrote the Song for Hope kind of what turned out to be early on in the pandemic, but we just didn't know it at the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew that I knew it was a dark time, right? But we just didn't know how is this gonna, when are we gonna get out of it, and how is this gonna all come together? Whether there was the need for hope, because you didn't know. So
right, yeah, exactly. Well, and then we burst out with the splash of color of the Lavender Mountains, and you know, I was really noticed. You know, you do a lot of, especially the first part of the song, you do a lot of sliding into the melody.
Mm.
which I found really unusual,
Hmm.
and pretty cool. Was that a
Thank
conscious
you.
choice? Because that starts just like the first 30, 60 seconds, and then you like leave that behind.
I think it's a bad habit.
Ah,
I think it happens like more than you think. And now that you mentioned it, I'm like, oh, I do that all the time. I mean, nothing against it. I think it's just kind of one of those articulations that I'm so used to throwing in there.
nice. So, as I mentioned before, you got a really nice video to accompany the
Thanks.
song, and
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
yeah, well, and I don't know whether they used a different, tint or something on the lens, but everything has that
Right.
lavender feel.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
Ibanez, of course, does,
Right.
and
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he did something to it, obviously, but I've often felt obviously the title is because the mountains here do look so purple, especially in a certain time of day, certain time of year, certain light. But it's amazing how even the best photography, it's like, is it ever really going to capture that color the way that the eye sees it, And
right.
out here, we really have spectacular sunsets, and it's so hard to convey that if you had to put a filter on it to make those mountains look more purple, I am totally okay with that. I know what they really look like.
That's
But
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that he kind of made it hyper real with that, because it
Mhm.
really is, that's the point I was trying to convey. So it really was the visual representation.
Yeah, and you're fortunate to even have that experience. I mean,
Absolutely.
we sing about Purple Mountain's majesty, but I wouldn't think probably not too many people in this country have actually seen like Purple Mountains like that.
Yeah,
So
and
it is an
it's
honor.
crazy. Like, we're surrounded by it in this town. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
really, it's like every direction. They're all a little bit different in color, but I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, nice. So doing like instrumental guitar music like this, I would imagine some of the biggest factors in it are probably tone and melody.
Hmm.
Um, what's those or other ones? What's most important to you as a guitarist?
To me, melody is definitely at the forefront. Tone is a big one, of course, and like you said, I mean, I think it just kind of goes together with that. You want to make sure you have the right voice with which to convey the melody that you hopefully came up with. Um, and then the rest kind of falls into place with that. To me, the rest of the arrangement is sort of dictated by what I had already come up with, and so it is there to serve the melody. It's there to serve the rest of the composition, and so wherever that goes, I'm trying to go with that rather than work against it or try to turn it into something else, because I feel like, oh, I have to release this kind of genre song or whatever, so I'm going to arrange this tune this way, even though it's really pushing to be another way. I'm really trying to like go where the music is telling me.
Well, I totally believe that because, I was listening to your last solo album. I was just trying to figure
That's
out if
pretty
I
much
was
the
on,
whole thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm on the right album or if it
Right.
sent me the wrong thing. I'm listening
I
to that
know.
circus wedding and I'm like, okay, there's like, is she an accordion player?
I know.
I mean, it's impressive because that tells me that you're not, and you hopefully you don't just see yourself as a guitarist. You're a musician. You're an artist,
Right.
and so
Thank you. Yeah.
you're
Right.
writing. Sometimes it comes out fast and furious on the fretboard,
Right.
like the Lavender Mountains, but a lot of times it doesn't. And then I just love the flamenco tinges like in the
Oh,
Andalusian
thank you.
fantasy and things like
I'm
that.
so glad you like that. Yeah, I mean, that was my whole thing with that album, right? It's like once I started writing those tunes, I didn't feel like they deserved a different treatment just because they had to fit a certain mold, or just
Hmm.
because they didn't seem like they would work on one album, but it just doesn't, that's not a good enough reason. So that's what led to what it is eventually. And I'm glad you like it. People were I'm very pleased with how open-minded everybody was, when a lot of my fans, especially, like, it was new to them too. Nobody was expecting that, and everybody was like, okay. So I listened to the first tune and I was like, okay. And then I went to the second tune and I'm like, okay. And then the third, I'm like, what's going on here? You have to go
Right.
through almost half the album before you ever hear a distorted electric guitar, right?
Right.
And so I do feel very, very fortunate that everybody was open-minded to it, because that just seemed like the right thing to do. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is not your mother's guitar album, so
Yeah. Well, good for you for going there.
thanks.
And I mean, I don't know how. Do you think you're going to sell many of these on the Death Clock tour, or
I don't know, you know,
how did those fans approach stuff like that? I mean, I don't.
I think they're more open-minded than you'd think, you know, like at least I've haven't gotten to do much Death Clock stuff yet, but the ones that I have, there's been fans that have started following me through that and kind of got on board with it, and I felt like, yeah, this is awesome. If you guys find out more and you like the rest of it, like, yeah,
Mhm.
metalheads are music lovers.
Yeah, yeah, pretty diverse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, for anyone who's coming and doesn't really know you yet, so you've
Mm,
got a number of solo albums out.
right.
I referenced you're going to be doing this Death Clock tour coming up in the
Right.
fall, and then it also seems like kind of your day job is Cirque du Soleil. Is that right?
Yeah, every once in a while. Yeah,
Every
it
once
was
in a while.
yeah, it was my very everyday day job for a long time, and
Hmm.
the pace of that show, it's all these Vegas shows, they're at least 10 shows a week,
They're
48
relentless.
weeks a year, and it depends if you were rotating with somebody or, So I did that grind for a while until I couldn't do it anymore. And now I'm in
Mm.
this really unique situation where I can do it every once in a while and kind of help out because I'm local and when I'm here, I'm here. And then they're very good with me leaving to go on tour, what like I'm going to do, or go and do
Hmm.
other things. And I'm sorry about the dog and
Okay, we
all
got
that.
the death metal growls happening back there. It's
That's true. That's true.
it's
I
totally
once had a
fine.
dream. You know what's funny is I once had a dream where, and I think it was actually a Death Clock show in the dream. We were playing an outdoor festival, and Micah was there upstage, and I just remember him like running downstage and like getting ready to jump because he wanted to be the first crowd surfing dog, and he was just like wee, like just ready for people to accept him. And I'm like, man, why can't I have more of those dreams instead of stress dreams every night? Like, that was awesome.
Wow, nice. That is cool.
So random.
Right. Well, given all that background of a history that you've had already and different contexts that you play, and I'm sure there's just many more. What at this point in your career, what's your dream? What would you really like to be moving towards as a full-time thing, or do you like the diversification that you've got going on right now?
I definitely love the diversification. My goals have always been to balance side work with solo stuff. That's
Hmm.
kind of what I've seen a lot of my heroes do growing up, and it was kind of the model that I aspired to. Also, just because of the versatility and trying to stay excited and not get bored doing the same thing. And so I'm really happy with how everything is right now, and I really hope it continues.
Sweet, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you like the also the solo track for you as opposed to like I'm going to commit myself to a decade to a band or something like that.
I'm sorry, say that first part again?
Like, are you enjoying the solo career? You're building your whole solo identity as a
Yeah.
guitarist, as
Hmm.
opposed to being the guitar slinger in a very popular band. Or
I mean, I just feel like my goal is to be doing both. You know what I mean? Is to just you know, play with Danny Elfman like I've been doing, for example, and I feel like I have a very specific role in that band, and it's a really different role than when I go and play my stuff with my band.
Mhm.
So doing both those things at once is really what I was hoping for.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
What's the what collaboration have you done thus far that has um, probably been the most satisfying for you?
Well, I think that's the one, and especially recording on Danny's Big Mess album. That was his
Hmm.
pandemic huge work. And being able to do that actually in person during the pandemic and going through that whole process together and seeing the release through and then going and playing this stuff live after 2 years, when we were supposed
Yeah.
to do it the first time, but then some of that material didn't even exist yet. So coming back full circle, we were able to play the new stuff. And so that's really it's more than I ever thought I'd get to be a part of, especially with
Mm.
regards to parts and input and stuff like that, where he doesn't have to ask my opinion. So it really feels collaborative,
Mm.
and I think that's really rare.
Yeah, yeah, that must be a thrill. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
right. With the instrumental vein, things like Lavender Mountains,
Hmm.
music like that has, at this point, we've got about a 40-year history of
Right.
that kind of instrumental guitar
Wow, isn't that
music.
crazy?
I know it
Yeah.
is. How much does where the guitar has been influence you as to where you're taking it in the present and then maybe into the future?
I mean, I think it's influencing me a lot. I don't know if I would have an idea without that. You know what I mean? Like, we all needed somewhere to go from, and somewhere to steal from, and somewhere to start from. And I can't imagine innovating it that way if it wasn't already there. And so I think I draw from all that history. I
Yeah,
try to, at least.
yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah.
What was the first live show that you were able to go to that really, it inspired that spark around the guitar for you?
I don't know if it was a show, but when I was a kid, I got into extreme very early, and
Huh,
Nuno's playing,
yeah,
and those kind of sounds on the electric guitar really drew me in. I'd never heard that kind of thing before, and that was the beginning. I mean, I was around a lot of classic rock and other types of rock, but that kind of like funky metal type
mm,
of thing was the first time, and it really grabbed me.
yeah, that's great. Just this morning, I was watching. He just has a new interview with Rick Beato
I
on
saw
there.
that.
Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great talk for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love listening to him rambling about all of that, his
Hmm.
inspirations too. I mean, primarily Eddie, but a lot of
Right.
others too. Yeah, sweet. So, do you want to talk at all about the Death Clock tour coming up, or anything for people to be
Sure.
aware of? And
Death Clock hasn't been on tour in a long time, and there's a movie coming out, and
mm,
we're going to be out with Baby Metal and with Jason Richardson opening, and it's going across the states and a couple of Canada dates as well. Um, for almost a couple of months, starts at the end of August. So I'm very excited about that.
yeah, you're looking forward to being on the road for a while, I bet.
Yeah, except for the dog. That's the
Yeah,
only thing. That's the only thing.
come on, you got to bring him with so he can
I know.
stage dive, right? And
That's what I know, right? That's what everybody says. I think he's too big and too not super easy to travel with. Like and it's like I think about that sometimes when I see people with dogs at the airport, and I'm like, I can't
mhm,
imagine like carrying gear, carrying him, or him carrying me, basically, and just
right.
stress. Yeah.
Right, totally. Anything else you got coming up on the horizon you want to mention that people know about at this point?
Danny Elfman's got a couple of shows coming up before the Death Clock tour in San Diego and Irvine. That's on early August.
Hmm.
Other than that, like I said, doing search shows, and yeah,
Is there a full album in the works that these
there
singles are kind of the
is.
first
There is,
pile
and
of
I'm
them?
really trying to steal steal the time to work on it here and
Right,
there.
right.
And it's happening, but it's like it's still gonna be a while,
Sure.
So yeah.
Yep. More accordion coming up.
You never know. You
Yeah,
never know.
maybe something new too.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah.
So
Well, thanks so much for talking with us, and
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you for your inspiration and your creativity and music out there.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Thank you, man.
And have fun out there this summer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Have a good one, Scott.
You too. Bye.
Bye.